Speaking of which, if we could talk about GPT-3 a little bit, I think it's an interesting, thought-provoking set of ideas that OpenAI is pushing forward. I think it's good for us to talk about the limits and the possibilities in neural networks. So, in general, what are your thoughts about this recently released, very large, 175 billion parameter language model?
So I haven't directly evaluated it yet. From what I have seen on Twitter and other people evaluating it, it looks very intriguing. I am very intrigued by some of the properties it is displaying, and of course the text generation part of that was already evident in GPT-2. That it can generate coherent text over long distances. That was, but of course the weaknesses are also pretty visible in saying that okay, it is not really carrying a world state around, and sometimes you get sentences like I went up the hill to reach the valley, or thing, they're like
Yeah.
some completely incompatible statements. Or when you're traveling from one place to the other, it doesn't take into account the time of travel, things like that. So those things I think will happen less in GPT-3 because it is trained on even more data, and it can do even more longer distance coherence. But it will still have the fundamental limitations that it doesn't have a world model, and it can't run simulations in its head to find whether something is true in the world or not.
Do you think so it's taking a huge amount of text from the internet and forming a compressed representation, do you think in that could emerge something that's an approximation of a world model, which essentially could be used for reasoning? I mean, so I'm not talking about GPT-3, I'm talking about GPT-4, 5, and GPT-10.
Yeah, I mean, they will look more impressive than GPT-3. So if you take that to the extreme, then a Markov chain of just first order. If you go to, I'm taking it the other extreme. If you read Shannon's book, right, he has a model of English text which is based on first order Markov chains, second order Markov chains, third order Markov chains, and saying that okay, third order Markov chains look better than first order Markov chains.
Yeah.
And so does that mean a first order Markov chain has a model of the world? Yes, it does. So yes, in that level, when you go higher order models or more sophisticated structure in the model like the transformer networks have, yes, they have a model of the text world. But that is not a model of the world. It's a model of the text world, and it will have interesting properties, and it will be useful. But just scaling it up is not going to give us AGI or natural language understanding or meaning.
Well, the question is whether being forced to compress a very large amount of text
Yeah.
forces you to construct things that are very much like, because the ideas of concepts and meaning is a spectrum.
Sure. Yeah.
So in order to form that kind of compression, maybe it will be forced to figure out abstractions which look awfully a lot like the kind of things that we think about as concepts, as world models, as common sense. Is that possible?
No, I don't think it is possible because the information is not there.
Well, the information is there behind the text, right?
No, because unless somebody has written down all the details about how everything works in the world to the absurd amounts, like okay, it is easier to walk forward than backward. That you have to open the door to go out of the thing. Doctors wear underwear. Unless all these things somebody has written down somewhere, or somehow the program found it to be useful for compression from some other text, the information is not there.
So that's an argument that like text is a lot lower fidelity than the experience of our physical world.
Correct. Yeah. So picture is worth 1,000 words, like that kind of thing.
Well, in this case, pictures aren't really. So the richest aspect of the physical world isn't even just pictures. It's the interactivity with the world.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's being able to interact. It's almost like if you could interact. So I disagree. Well, maybe I agree with you that picture is worth 1,000 words, but 1,000.
It's
Not,
still, yeah, you could
it's,
say you could capture it with a GPT X.
so I wonder if there's some interactive element where a system could live in text world where it could be part of the chat, be part of talking to people. It's interesting. I mean, fundamentally, so you're making a statement about the limitation of text. Let's say we have a text corpus that includes basically every experience we could possibly have. I mean, just a very large corpus of text, and also interactive components. I guess the question is whether the neural network architecture, these very simple transformers, but if they had like hundreds of trillions or whatever comes after a trillion parameters, whether that could store the information needed. That's architecturally. Do you have thoughts about the limitation on that side of things with neural networks?
I mean, so transformer is still a feed forward neural network. It has a very interesting architecture which is good for text modeling and probably some aspects of video modeling, but it is still a feed forward architecture. And
You believe in the feedback mechanism, the recursion.
and also causality, like being able to do counterfactual reasoning, being able to do intervention, so which is actions in the world. So all those things require different kinds of models to be built.
Yeah.
I don't think transformers captures that family. It is very good at statistical modeling of text.
Yeah.
And it will become better and better with more data, bigger models, but that is only going to get so far. Finally, when so I had this joke on Twitter saying that, hey, this is a model that has read all of quantum mechanics and theory of relativity, and we are asking it to do text completion, or
Yeah.
we are asking it to solve simple puzzles.
Yeah.
That when you have AGI, if you that's not what you ask a system to do. If it has, we'll ask the system to do experiments. What should
Yeah.
And come up with hypothesis, and revise the hypothesis based on evidence from experiments. All those things, right?
Mhm.
Those are the things that we want the system to do when we have AGI, not solve simple puzzles. So